Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life.
Hats.
I thought you were waiting for me. I thought I was going to. Yeah, Brenda, how are you, man?
Good, mate. What's going on?
I'm a shitcoiner. I'm a double shitcoiner.
Why?
Because we are sitting on two new chairs.
Yes.
Actually, they're not new chairs. They're second-hand chairs.
Yeah.
But so we
Well,
are not
how much?
getting...
Do you want to say how much they were?
They were in sats. They were. It was $50 for two chairs.
Yeah.
So big spender. But yeah. How many sats is that?
A lot.
A lot too many sats. It's frightening.
It sounds like nothing when you just say $50.
Yeah, $50
when you talk about it in sats.
But particularly right now, it's a lot of sats.
So we're definitely moving up in the world. We've upgraded from at least one broken chair that Hats broke.
Yeah, I break chairs. That's basically what I do.
Yep.
Because chairs are a shit coin anyway. But and you were sitting on the most uncomfortable church pew that I've ever seen or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway,
and I've got a bony ass, so that doesn't work out well for me. But anyway,
this is what a good start this is.
Yeah.
We have got two people on tonight.
We do, which
Quite
is
exciting.
I think a first as well.
We're recording, right?
Yeah.
And one. Yeah. So it was the first time we've had two, and the first time we've had a repeat guest, but we have a new guest too. So you want to introduce them?
No, you can.
So in fact, do you want to introduce yourself, Daz? Let's start with you, mate.
Well, you've just done it. Hi, Daz.
I'm back, boys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. I got to tell you, I'm feeling the pressure. First returning guest. The stakes are high.
Yep, and you are in the docs jar as well already. We're just talking about that too. So Daz is already in our docs jar. So let's hope he has to double up. And we also have Seb Bunny, right?
Yep. Like the rabbit, but with an EY.
Right. Okay, gotcha. And you are in Canada, and it is ridiculous o'clock in the morning. Do you want to say who you are and where you are and what the story is, Seb?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, my name's Seb. I am just north of kind of Vancouver, somewhere in the forest, and I'm on kind of like a bit of a Bitcoin standard, and have been kind of supporting the Bitcoin education side of things for a few years now. And it's just, again, one of those things. Bitcoin is kind of the guiding light, and it's changed my world. So that's just kind of like a brief little bit thing about me.
It just keeps happening to people. Once you jumped in, you can't jump out.
You can't jump out. You don't want to. Jump out.
So maybe where do we start? So let's.
How
do you know each other?
Yeah.
Let's talk about how do you guys know each other? That's like probably a good place to
I'll
start.
probably take that one, Seb. So yeah, so I started writing some education pieces, and then I sent one of my pieces to the one and only Mr. Greg Foss, and he gave it the thumbs up, said you're not speaking absolute crap, you're kind of making sense. And then it wasn't long after I sent Foss that piece to look over that a surgeon by the name of Jason Sansoni reached out to Foss and said, Foss, half the time when you talk, I don't understand a word what you're saying, and I need like a dictionary and the old Book of Bonds Bible to break down what you're trying to say. I think there's an opportunity to build out a platform or some courses or something along the lines of basically making this financial gobbledygook more accessible to the layperson, really. And so Foss introduced me and Jason, and then a few months later, Seb was writing some phenomenal stuff for Bitcoin Magazine. He can probably fill in exactly how he met Foss, but it wasn't too long after we'd started that group that a couple of other people joined, and then Seb joined the fold as well. And just one of those things, Seb and I are very aligned with our thought process around, what we wanted from this course, which we'll obviously talk about a bit today, if we can. And we just hit it off, and he joined the group really, really well, fitted in, melded in really well, and just all of us motivated by trying to educate people on this shiny orange coin, called Bitcoin.
Great. So the educational platform that you've created is called Looking Glass?
Correct.
What is the process, I suppose, from inception, the middle ground to actually launching the platform? Like, is it just 1,000,001 Zoom meetings? Is it, all right, you do this, you do that, I'm going to do this? Like, how did you actually start?
It was trial by fire, really. We were figuring that out. It's a really good question because we didn't know how to go about that. So a lot of, I would say nearly the first 6 months from when Jason and I first started talking to when we really started putting pen to paper was about 6 months. We were talking, just trying to collaborate ideas. One of the biggest challenges, because we're all global, so we've got myself in Australia, Seb in Canada, Foss in Canada. We've got Pleb Music. He does our content and media. He floats around the world, but he was based in Germany, has been based in Croatia, recently based in South Africa. So it's a real challenge to balance all these time frame. Jason's in the US. Now we've got James on boards in the US. We've got another lady who's just joined the team, Dahlia, and she's US based, but she's currently in Colombia. So it's the biggest challenge is trying to find a slot of time where we can all meet and catch up. So it's becoming a little bit harder as the group sort of grows, but we're managing it so far. But from sort of first talks to inception to start putting pen to paper was about 6 months. And then it took us about another 6 months before we actually had it launched. So once we sort of started building the bookends out about what we wanted to deliver. So the first sort of step was, what is it we're trying to achieve? What is it we want to touch on? What do we want to leave out more than anything? And then, what does it look like? What's the sort of building out a framework for the content? And Seb, I'm probably talking too much, mate. I'll let you jump in a sec. But and then it was just starting to find the strengths within the team and then try and sort of allocate some roles. And as it turned out, sometimes there can be, when you're dealing with content and this content creation, sometimes you can have too many people. So in the end, for this specific task and this specific course, it just come down to Seb and I writing the content for the course that we launched.
So you basically, oh, sorry, Seb.
Well, I was just going to mention as well, like, you'll be surprised at how many different types of like target markets there are even just within the Bitcoin space. And so that's where we had a lot of trouble. We're like, do you target like the maximalists? Do you target those kind of in-between people where they like Bitcoin, but they're also interested in finance? Do you target the people that have never heard of Bitcoin? And that's the thing, is we were trying to think about, okay, well, we want to make an impact. And so we've decided to kind of go down that route of trying to actually target the people that either don't know about finance, and we're trying to get them into finance so that they can ask the right questions, or the people that are already in finance, but they don't necessarily know about Bitcoin, because we feel like that's where we're going to have the most impact. And that is actually what took us months to be able to define. And we're still kind of defining it now. And it's easy to just kind of target the maximalists because that's who we kind of align with. But I think to make an impact, it's actually, we got to hit that larger target market, but it's hard to reach.
Just while we're on the early doors before, most of the listeners turned me and Brendo off after 5 minutes. So it's free. Let's start there.
Yes.
It's I've done it. It's a fabulous course. It's it's called the Foundations course. Is that right? Is that what your one's called, the Foundations course?
Yeah.
And you guys, it's sort of narrated all the way through. You do it yourself. Daz, is that your? Can we say this? Is that a family member that is the professional lady that's on the thing too, or was that a joke?
No, that's my wife. Yeah.
Is that true? Yeah. Okay. Cool. I thought you were. I didn't know whether that was true. I was like, that's what I said to you. I sent him a message to say I think it's really cool how you're like narrating the stuff yourself, because it makes it much more personal. But it's good that you've got that sort of professional lady as well.
Well, I actually like. Well, she's got a lovely voice. She's beautiful. She does
have a good voice.
Nice, soothing voice, and then it cuts to Daisy like, "Hey, boys." No, you should have dropped that. G'day, boys.
But,
we often joke that we really didn't leverage that opportunity, that era with the 1-900 numbers. Missed opportunity.
It's yes, you do say something at some point. It's like, oh,
shit hit the fan or something.
So, yeah, what was it? You just like, yeah, you're shit out of luck, or so I can't remember what it is, but there's something in there. It's like, yeah, you just let the guard down slightly. But it's a great course, and in doing it, obviously I've been around here for a little bit, and I sort of, most of the content I'm pretty familiar with, but all the way through, it doesn't feel like doing a course about like people, forcing you into Bitcoin. It does not have that feel at all. It's a What is the problem that we're trying to? What is the problem we're even talking about? And what are all of, not maybe not all, but the major potential solutions that you see as a possible solution, and then just offering Bitcoin as one of those things. And obviously, based on the fact that you present to people, people will look at that and go, oh well, at least I should look more at Bitcoin. So it's very easy. I'm sure you guys get pulled into the sort of the toxic maximalist Twitter stuff as well. I do all the time, but there is definitely a need for more pragmatism and more, particularly for people who are not coming saying I'm here and I'm trying to fix it. For the people who just don't know yet, and for the people who just don't know yet, who are trying to get their head around what may on the face of it seem like quite a complicated topic. It's very approachable. It's, what would you say? I think you got it down as like a 2.5 hour. I'm a bit slow. I think I paused and thought about it for a while. It was about 4. It took me to go through, but it was it's great, guys. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the feedback, and we are getting some really good feedback with it, because it's one of those things, you put so much work and effort into this thing, and you really will flying blind. We didn't know if there was a target market, but one thing to just sort of pull on that thread was really something we tried really hard with, concentrating in the back of our mind about what was our target audience. And we felt as if, we wanted to reach everyday wage earners, people who need this more than anything. But as soon as you mention the word Bitcoin, they're going to run 100 miles, because it's still shrouded in this risk, and it's a scam, and all this FUD that they've if they just follow mainstream media, that's all they're going to know about Bitcoin, and you just hear about all that, gets pulled in obviously to all the crypto scams and the shitcoin scams that go on. So as soon as you mentioned the word Bitcoin, it was kind of needed to be, and we've done this deliberately, even on the course, you'll notice there's no Bitcoin logo. We went away from even using orange. There's one subtle little Bitcoin logo popping around in the background of the main page, but that's the only sort of thing that we flagged with Bitcoin, because it's kind of like we needed everybody to come along that journey without knowing they were on that journey. The same way most of us went through, learning about this, the money is fucked, and reading the Bitcoin Standard. And, the same thing I always say to people who want a good book to read the Bitcoin Standard, but don't worry, it's not about Bitcoin, really. I mean, that name scares people off straight away, but it's more about money. Like, 3/4 of that book's about money, and then it's how Bitcoin fixes it, and that's the sort of same approach we wanted to take with the course, by not shoving Bitcoin down everybody's throat and allowing them to come to the realization that it was a great solution, if not the only solution for, pragmatic, proactive investing moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think the course, you get a feel that, that's the decision that you guys have taken from the course, but without shoving everybody must take, it's just to go think for yourself. Here's the information, to go think for yourself. Right? Mm-hmm. Critical
100%.
thinking. Please, Seb, go.
Oh, you go. Oh yeah, and I was just to say, like, I think the thing that's so important is that a lot of people, when you speak to them, how do you get into Bitcoin? Most of them, they did not just kind of go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and start researching Bitcoin. Because if you don't think the money is broken, well, then Bitcoin just looks like a dumb idea. And I think you've got to realize that actually there's issues in the world right now that we are not fixing. And 2008, during the financial crisis, all of this monetary policy was just papering over the cracks. And we're just kind of exponentially increasing this issue that we have. And when you start to realize that, then you're like, okay, well, we've got to fix this issue. And that's, I think, when Bitcoin becomes more obvious. And especially for me, because I think I remember looking at it in like 2013 and watching like the first documentaries and reading books on it, because I found it fascinating, but I was like, it's a Ponzi. I'm never going to invest in that thing. I wish I'd been able to recognize the issues that were in our economy earlier.
Yeah, I agree. But as I was in prep for this, everybody's been raving about Greg on the Bitcoin panel at the trillionaires panel at Bitcoin 2022, and I hadn't watched it, so I thought, well, I better watch that just to see what it's about. And he's very good. But where was I going with that?
You like Greg Foss?
No, excellent. But he just what was he? He was making the point that I've lost my train of thought completely.
Okay, well, I'll
jump in.
throw in with a question. So, his handle is Foss Greg Foss. Is that like free and open source software Greg Foss, or is it like a Bond thing, like Foss, Greg Foss?
You'd have to ask him, man. I've never actually thought about it.
Oh, really?
That's deep. That's deep, Brendo. Yeah.
That's what-
I reckon
I'm
it's,
gonna Google it on
it's
Twitter,
probably the latter. Foss.
Yeah,
Greg
it's a Bond.
Foss, for sure.
Greg Foss.
He's actually, I don't know if many people know this. His sister apparently is a comedian, professional comedian.
What's
Yeah, they
who-
said
what's her
that in
name?
the thing, right? I didn't know that
Yeah.
until today.
What's her name?
I've never watched any of the stand-up. I don't know. We'll have to find it, and I'll check. I'll let you know so you can put it in the show notes. I don't know if she's got videos out or anything, but I reckon she'd be hilarious because he is fucking funny.
Is he?
But he has this sort of clout now. He actually has only been in this sort of well-known Bitcoiner space for not very long. He sort of stepped in and then immediately had this
12 to 18 months, maybe. Cause
something like that. I don't know how long he's personally been involved, but like he only really stepped into the Twitter sphere like in the last maybe year and a half.
Is he an angry guy? Because he seems like an angry guy.
Mate, he is
Passionate.
so personable. And
Yeah.
that's why he's like blown up, because he just networks, man. He's just fun. Like, I reckon he'd just be a hoot to hang around on the weekend, because Seb can probably speak to this better because they go skiing together. But Seb, tell him about, like, he'll just like start talking to somebody on the chairlift, and by the time you get to the end of it, they know, he knows what they ate for breakfast.
Oh yeah. I've been blown away with how personable he is. I wouldn't say that he's angry. I would say that he's got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And there'll be times he'd like come over to my place at, say, like, I don't know, 7 p.m., 6 p.m. And you'll start talking about Bitcoin. He's like, I can't talk about Bitcoin. It's just, I'm going to get too fired up and I won't be able to sleep tonight. And I'm like, okay, we don't have to talk about Bitcoin. But you'll be going up every chairlift you go up as you're going skiing. He starts like, you'll go to talk to him and then he'll just turn away and he'll start talking to like the people that he has no idea who they are. And then it's like, oh, so what do you guys do? You guys from around here? Have you guys heard of Bitcoin before? And then he'll just start going into Bitcoin, orange pilling everyone, every chairlift. Yeah, he's pretty
No way,
funny.
that's next level.
Yeah.
He's but he sort of stepped in with a profile, right? Not a Bitcoin profile, but a business profile.
Financial, yeah.
And I think, is it James sort of did as well? James
So, sorry, who's James?
Lavish.
Yep. Yeah. So James and Greg are kind of like, we've broken our team down into different compartments, and Daz and I are mainly the content writers. We've then got Dahlia. Dahlia is kind of like content engagement because she's worked in the educational space. We then have Jason. Jason's kind of like a bit more strategy focused and PR. And then when it comes to Max is audio visual. But James and Greg are both kind of senior advisors because they've both worked in the hedge fund space. They've both worked in the traditional finance space, and their depth of knowledge is just unbelievable. And so whenever we're kind of talking about the financial side of things or direction, they're great to go to, and they have a ton of knowledge.
But I mean,
And James puts out a phenomenal newsletter called The Informationist. We share his content on the Looking Glass as well, so you can get access to that in both sources. But it's well worth signing up for. He's just got a really awesome way of breaking down some of these complex professional money terms. And he's just got a real good way of distilling it down into a real nice little bite-sized crunch. He doesn't, waffle on for pages and pages and pages. He's got a real good way of putting that message out succinctly and just explaining, complex things all the way from like credit default swaps to, volatility. Phenomenal newsletter. So we're really lucky to have him. And, they help give us some guidance and some vision. And that sort of advice coming from that finance world, which is really, really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to have grown very organically. It's not like you've gone looking for the person that's going to fill a role. It's like just random guys and girls have come together, and all of a sudden you've just sort of gravitated towards the thing, your own strengths. Is that fair?
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome is
And
that?
we oh man, it's just testament to the Bitcoin community too, because like even like daily, we are bombarded with offers for help and people who just want to help and get involved and want to contribute. And we get so the course has been, someone reached out and says, I'd love to translate this into Turkish. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'd love to let you.
Yeah.
so we got Turkish, so we got Spanish, we've got Filipino people working on that. We also got reached out, someone else. I actually reached out to them and recently translated the Bitcoin, the bullish case for Bitcoin VJ's work into Portuguese. So I reached out to him and we just jumped on a chat. Turns out he's from Madeira and he's like, love your content. I'd love to work in sort of partnership to see if we can spread this to the masses of Madeira, who've just onboarded, Bitcoin as, I don't think it's quite legal tender, but they're definitely pro from a government level. They're definitely pro Bitcoin. And, that's just testament to the sort of people in the community that are just like, we're just amped to we know that what this thing's going to do without sounding too evangelical about it. It's going to change the world and everyone just wants to be involved with it. It's just freaking amazing.
But it's like sharing a gospel in a way. Like, and I'm an atheist, right? But it really is. Like, you feel, you want to share the right thing to do to fix the problems, So that's what it feels like to me. It's I think it's as close to a religious experience as I've ever had in my life.
Completely.
Well, that's what Valis talks about, it being a spiritual journey, and I'm fully buying into that, man. Because I'm the same. I grew up Christian. My mother was heavily Christian, right? But I never really bought into it. I was like, that doesn't really resonate with me. But you sort of like the fundamentals of doing good in the world are really resonating through this thing, and so it can touch on so many elements in people's lives. It's just amazing. And the more you pull on those threads, you realize, man, this is a real paradigm shift economically, spiritually, as far as behavioral changes. You see people wanting to fix their diets and get fitter. It's just amazing how many areas this is touching. Once you realize that, hey, you know what? If I put some effort in and I can actually save in money that's deflationary and it's going to buy me more shit over time, I'm all of a sudden more concerned for the future. I'm going to put off that consumption. I'm going to put off that spending, and I want to be around a bit longer. So I want to take care of myself and make sure I am around to enjoy it.
But the thing that's great, Daz, is that in you doing what's good for you, you're actually doing what's good for other people. Like I don't believe that all the Bitcoiners are better than anybody else. Well, we like to think we are, right? Well,
not on the record.
But yeah. When I turn that with press, but I don't. I mean, I just don't. I just think what this has done is fix the incentive, right? So that what we are doing can appear as better for everybody else, and we can bask in the glory of doing that. But actually, we're just being selfish. Right, but in being selfish, doing what's right for yourself, being greedy and selfish, which you say these words and they can trigger people, but by being greedy and selfish, you're actually propping up the price of Bitcoin for a family in El Salvador, and you can say, that's why you're doing it, but maybe you are, maybe you're not, but it doesn't really matter.
Well, and I think you bring up such a good point, because I think that it really highlights, without going too deep into the technical side of things, it really highlights that whole coercive centralization to like a passion-based decentralization, where you've got a handful of people standing at the top telling you should be using this money and this is how it works, and no one wants to necessarily get involved in this. There's not people opening up themselves and just being like, I'm going to dedicate my life to fiat. Do you know what I mean? Whereas then you look at Bitcoin, this like passion-based decentralization, and there are people all over the world that are just like dropping their jobs just to help out in any way possible, and they don't request an income. They're just like, I need to do this for the people. You know what I mean? Like that, I think, shows you that decentralization, that spread of community that Bitcoin is creating. It's unbelievable.
And it's at all levels, Seb. It's from a guy sitting in his caravan with COVID and a hoodie, writing a course for people in the world, to the guy I was watching the panel with Greg. There was the guy who was he was the CEO of SoftBank, who has given up his job to just go learn about Bitcoin. Like the diversity there is unbelievable, and nobody's seeing themselves as better than anybody else. We're just all approaching it going, well, what can I do? Mm-hmm. And that's actually the most. That's for me. That was the hardest bit. I was like, well, what can I do? I can't do anything. I'm not a technical guy. I can't contribute to the code. I can't do this, can't do that. And maybe there's half a dozen people who'll listen to this and maybe go and try and learn themselves. That's I feel like I'm contributing a little bit, but it just feels good. We're not. All of us are just doing it. We're just giving away our time. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't. But it's not a chore. It certainly doesn't feel like a chore. Other than the Brendo aspect, it's not a chore.
It is a chore for me. Thanks for pointing that out, Hats. So hang on, before anybody goes, so because we're such a professional outfit, we've got a free version of Zoom. I think we talked to Daz about this last time, so we're going to have to call you back.
Multiple. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because we got more than one dude.
Send them a.
All right.
Oh yeah, they're gonna.
Oh shit, we should have done
Zoom's a shitcoin. Actually, Hat's got up me for that fact. I had a paid Zoom account. He's like,
I know.
Shitcoin.
And and he's like, don't ask Daz for his login because no, he didn't say that. But anyway. All right.
Give us. Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Give
yeah.
us 2 seconds.
And now I'll do some music break in the middle. And we're back.
There we go.
From a word from our sponsors.
A word from our sponsors. Yeah. You mean you went for a smoke?
Yeah. Shh.
Um.
While it was converting, it was actually literally converting the thing.
Yeah.
I didn't actually say, oh, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Brendo,
Yes.
durries are a shitcoin.
I know. So is wine, mate.
Oh,
So are hats. So are all those books on the shelf.
Hey, don't look at them.
I sent my uncle a link to who was it? Preston Pish and Lawrence Lepard on this a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you guys caught that one. It's brilliant. But I've just got that link was really interesting and very insightful.
Ooh.
That was the fishing rod is in the water, or the line is in the water.
Send him Looking Glass.
No, he is already in. But yeah, I will happily send him
yeah.
Looking Glass.
Yeah,
But he does own some already. I'm just every now and again I'm just putting a little bit more out there, but this is the point, right? Go back to Looking Glass. It's you have to find the angle for, and you sound like such a salesman when you say words like that. But you have to find the thing that resonates with different people, right?
Definitely.
And some people it will just be the memes, and they just want to have a laugh and join the club. But other people, they really want to go study. So who is doing the course? Have you any idea who's using it, or like how people have found it, or do you have any sort of oversight on that?
We got a little bit of analytics. So we've had about, I think, 22,000 people visit.
Holy shit.
Which we're blown away with.
That's awesome.
Look, they're not all signed up and taken the course. We've got just about 700 registered users for the course.
That's great.
In what, like
so
3
we
weeks?
always said if we achieve 1,000 people, we'd be stoked. So we're well and truly on the way. We've nearly got 1,000 Twitter followers. So we launched it. We'd be over a month now, so maybe heading into the 6th week, I'd imagine. So it was about a week before the conference, so which was the first week of April. So yeah, that's about right. But yeah, we're just absolutely blown away. A lot of that reach has come from Foss's audience, absolutely. A lot of that has come from the Bitcoin 2022 conference, where because Foss dropped it, we bribed him. You know, we promised him beers if he'd plug it a couple of times. Obviously, you know, he was more than happy to do that, and just trying to reach out. We've been pretty active on Twitter too, like dropping, you know, whenever we see a conversation going on about inflation or stuff like that, you know, we're in there saying, hey, try this course. We know inflation sucks too. Check this out, you know. So we've been pretty active trying to promote it. We haven't spent any money on advertising, so everything's been organic, which is really, really cool. But obviously that's an option as well. But yeah, we're just blown away. Some of the feedback we've gotten, and people, we don't know who's necessarily, you know, doing the course, where they're sort of coming from. There's been a few people, obviously, like yourselves, who have, you know, that we've heavily relied on the Bitcoin community to have a look at this and go, yeah, look, that's pretty good. And we've had some good feedback about this is exactly the sort of thing I needed to, you know, to have ready to go to send to friends and family for the same reasons we talked about before. People don't want Bitcoin shoved down their throat, but there's such important messages in learning about the monetary system that, you want people to go along that journey. So, you know, that sort of feedback just spurs us on to know that what we've done's got a market, and just encourages us to keep going and work on the next thing, you know. So the next sort of course we're going to be working on is a Bitcoin specific course. So the sort of rationale behind that is, okay, you landed on our site, someone sent it to you, you didn't know about Bitcoin, but now you're interested. Now what? So now what we're going to do is do a 2-part series of the course. First part's going to be the ins and outs of Bitcoin, learning about everything that you want to know. Again, we're going to try and strip back some of the complexities and some of the technicalities around it. But by the same token, we find it really important that you need to know how the mining works. Exactly. When you buy Bitcoin, what are you actually buying? No, it's not a digital coin that sits in a imaginary wallet. It's, just a ledger and a claim to the Bitcoin sitting on that ledger, So it's the sort of messages we want to reiterate and get people involved. And we actually find it kind of amazing, even like some pretty hardcore Bitcoiners. There's some things around the technicals behind Bitcoin that most, people still don't understand. So having that will give Bitcoiners that optionality as well to really dig down and have something in one place, try and make it succinct again, bite-sized pieces. With that first course, we were trying to be really conscious of, if you've only got 20 minutes on your commute to work, we want to give you something. So here's a 20-minute bite-sized module that you can do. You can listen to it. It's going to be the same approach with the Bitcoin course. And then the second part to that course is like, okay, so now you wanted to buy Bitcoin, you've learned about Bitcoin, you've bought some Bitcoin. Now here's all the shit that you need to know to maintain your conviction, because you are going to get hit with FUD. You're going to get hit with 25% drawdowns in a few days or 50% drawdowns in over a week or so. You need to have that conviction. And here's the stuff we think you need to know about that you're going to hear on repeat ad nauseum. But this is how you deal with it.
Did you guys look at Sailors, what is it, hope.com?
The Sailor Academy or whatever.
Yes, and sort of check that out and talk about how you might differentiate your stuff from that?
I haven't spent a ton of time on it. I have been in there. I have registered for the course. One of the learnings we took from Sailor's course was that we found it really hard to navigate and find where we were going. And I think Seb's got something to add to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he definitely focuses. I think his priority is the institutional investor. Yeah. And so you notice a lot of, he talks quite technically, and he's got a lot of even going into like the tax side of things, like how as a corporation you're going to be taxed when it comes to Bitcoin and all this kind of stuff. And so we definitely wanted to hit home and remove, like, one of the key things we focus on is, one, as you mentioned at the start, like we want to make sure that it's free to those that need it most. And two, we wanted to make sure that we remove the jargon. We don't want to start talking about the volatility and the VIX and all this kind of stuff. We want to kind of like break it down into like easy to understand concepts. And if we do have to use a term that is kind of known within the community, then you can click on any term on our website and it's going to pop up with a bubble and explain that term. And so we really want to make it kind of accessible to everyone so people don't feel intimidated, because a lot of people find a lot of the words and the jargon used in the space, it's super intimidating. And so we wanted to move away from that.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we all just gravitate to the things that we're probably better at and avoid the things that we're maybe not so good at. So to have a single point of, reference where you can go, okay, well, I'm good at this, but I don't really understand the difficulty adjustment or something. That's not my bag. I can just go and look at it and kind of remind myself something. Because if you're not, I find it myself, like I use a cold card, right? But if I don't use it regularly, I completely lose track of what I meant to do, and I have to go back to stage one again and go watch one of Ben's piece of work or something, and to remind myself, right? If you're not doing it all the time, I mean, if you're using something all the time, you remember. But if you don't, it's like everything. So to have that point of reference is, I think, it's going to be great. Have you thought about potentially? I mean, I know you're saying free, but have you thought about the donation side of things?
Definitely. That's something we're working on now to incorporate into the site. So I know, the Bitcoin communities are giving community. So when they, it's value for value model, when they see value, they'll reward value. So we're just talking about ways that we sort of come to the realization the rubber's hit the road here. One of the first things we wanted to figure out was if we had a market, are we wasting our time? And it's pretty clear from our first sort of response, our first crack at this, that yes, we're meeting a market. So we're now looking at ways that we can monetize to make it ongoing, right? Because you've got maintenance fees, you've got obviously, the web design. We paid for someone to do it. We wanted it professional. We wanted it clean. We wanted it to work.
Great. It looks really good.
Yeah, so it was worth paying for those sort of things, but that comes at a cost, right? So at the moment, we were very kindly funded by some very, philanthropic people that helped us along that journey. But, that's only going to go so far. So we will be relying on those sort of things. And we also want to, like I said, we can't highlight this enough. We want this to be free to the people who need it. So that's our main goal. So anything that we're thinking about as far as monetization strategies, we want that to be the core focus. And the other thing we don't want to have is a smattering of advertising all over the front page with trying to sell people things, because we do want it to be accessible and approachable to as many people as possible. And there's some other ways you can go about doing that, but they're the sort of things we're thinking about at the moment, just to for the longevity of this thing. It's we need to have a revenue model and we need to be bringing these things in, but how do we do that? By keeping it free to everybody who needs to use it,
Yeah, it's interesting. We had a chat with Oscar at Oscar Mary at Fountain. Looking at the sort of value, like the value for value model via podcasting. Not that we're not doing this, same as you. Like I've, for example, bought a couple of chairs today. And that's what we're talking. I'm not talking about earning a living, right? I'm talking about just what can we do to make this better for the people who are listening, and without having to just constantly go back to the family and say we're spending more money on the podcast or what are you, or the website or whatever it is that you guys are doing. And it's just, I don't think anybody has an object. You can speak for yourselves, but when I listen to other people's podcasts and I hear the quality of the advertiser or the non-quality of the advertiser often, right? And I'm like, I really don't want to be associated with that. But that doesn't mean there aren't good companies out there working in the Bitcoin space who you would be perfectly happy to be associated with, right? But you just want to be selective because you don't want to sell out to some complete and utter garbage. But there's nothing wrong with wanted to make it a commercially,
viable.
Yeah, commercially viable model. That's perfectly okay as well. And it's just because ultimately you end up be able to provide more value to the user.
That's what it's about. So we've come to the realization that if we are to monetize this, we'll be able to deliver a better product for people. And there are ways, like you say, with sponsorships and so forth. And we've got no shame in doing that. And I guess the good thing about living in today's modern age is we're not in a hurry to welcome and have to onboard a sponsor, so we can be choosy. We can choose a sponsor that aligns with our values and wants to go along that journey and shares the values and the mission that we sort of set ourselves from the outset. So we can take our time with that, but that's the sort of thing we're looking forward, just to be able to provide a better solution for everybody. One of the other things we're looking at doing is trying to massage this content into a deliverable method, and what that looks like. So we're exploring those sort of things, and there's some avenues we can go down with that.
Explain what you mean by that. That's sorry, I didn't understand that.
I was going to say, are you talking maybe like video content, or
no, more like curriculum? So deliverable content. So that could be schools, universities, institutions, you name it. There's a whole plethora of services out there, and they're the sort of things that you can present a solution to and monetize it in that way, shape or form, because we're still remaining true to the end user. So say, for example, you to go to a school district in the United States, there's a big market for third-party courses. So you could potentially package this into a solution and then, present that to the market, see how it fits. And then that way I've got no issue taking money off a government or a school system. And it still remains free to the end user, the person that needs it, the person who's getting the education. So they're the sort of things, we're obviously thinking about as good ways. And I mean, we've done the hard work. The content's there. It's a bit more hard work massaging that into a deliverable curriculum as far as activities and all that sort of thing goes. But I mean, the fundamentals there, the framework's there. And then that's the sort of thing we're looking at to leverage into the next phase is to what else we can do with this stuff,
There's a few.
When I think going back to the target market side of things, I think that is where we've spoken at length about this, which is okay, there's a lot of content. There's Bitcoin Magazine. There is all of these different kind of news focused sites that are kind of directed at maximalists. But the thing is, it's so hard to reach those people that either do not know about Bitcoin or that aren't even looking online at any of this kind of the financial space. And that's where we felt the curriculum side of things you're getting it kind of put in front of you, and these kids are then going to learn about this stuff and learn to ask the right questions. Whereas I think at the moment, I think these kids have no idea what's going on. They're coming out of school, coming out of university, whatever it may be, and they don't understand what it means, like why their money is deteriorating, why house prices are going up. They don't understand any of this stuff. And so we'd love to be able to build that foundation at an early age so that we're actually starting to change the next generation, which would be phenomenal.
That's great.
Like our Brenda and I have kids at the same school, and fortunately they've just had a new school built, so they've got a lovely new school. And I look at that school and I think you could cover the basketball, court with or whatever hall with solar. You could have whatever number of miners running. You could actually have a little program where somebody is teaching exactly what is happening there, and you could be paying for the full electricity. You don't have to do you could be, charged for your time maybe, but you could be paying for the whole electricity bill of the school at the same time. I mean, there's just so many ways that you could help. But it's sort of like when money gets involved with education, there's this sort of, we can't do that type thing. And it's just how, like, even with like your school's what do you call it, like parent teacher thing, that all the money has to be kept separate from the school money.
Oh, the P&C.
Yeah. And it's very difficult to sort of engage in there because it's, you don't want to be seen as some business trying to corrupt a generation of children, right? But there's a whole teaching program that could be done in there too, in terms of what's happening. You could have the kids running the whole thing, and frankly, they would be better than most of the adults that are trying. But there's people
we're actually toying. We were joking around the other day. It's like, with the really younger kids, it's like there might be a school teddy bear or a class teddy bear, and it's your weekend to take the teddy bear home, when you've got to look after it and so forth. We were joking around the other day, but it'd be cool if you had like a classroom miner, and it's your job to, log in, make sure the sats are ticking away in the box.
I thought you were going to say a classroom cold card and seed phrase, and you just give it to some kid and
get daddy to load it up.
How many people have sat in a freezing cold school hall that could be heated by two S19s? Like, really?
Yeah, totally.
And it sounds I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's not. Like, have you seen the one where the guy's drying his clothes with the heat coming off the mat? Like, people are doing this now. It's possible. There's a few people doing it in the education space. There's the Bitcoin for Kiddos book. There is the I can't remember his name. It's like Bitcoin Rabbi or something. He wrote the book. What's that called? Something money. Anyway, something money. Can't remember. And then there's Scott Sibley and Mallory who have the game. Shamery. So there are people oppushing into that side of things, and it's again, it's just
and we've actually been approached for that very thing as well, is that children's space. So that's something we've sort of looked at and explored. For now, we're just going to park it, and I think there are some really good offerings out already. So, that sort of space is covered. Actually, Brenda, like this, I wrote a bit of a Bitcoin song, little kiddie nursery rhyme, mate. We'll have to put it down, and we'll have to record it when you come up here.
Do you know what? I've actually got a little one in my pocket as well.
Oh yes, mate.
I thought you were about to sing. I thought we were just about to get exclusive there, Dad.
Please. I bags the orange skivvy.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Let's
I know what colour you're going to have, but I got the orange one.
Yeah.
No, actually, this body doesn't look too good in a skivvy, so I might have to rethink it.
Can I
don't know what they're talking about,
suggest maybe flagging the idea of potentially doing video content or like infographics or that kind of thing, of animating the audio? Because I think obviously audiobooks and podcasts have really shown how huge they are now, how effective they are for time poor people, but there's still a huge segment of the community that are always on YouTube. They're always looking for video content to watch, and that's another way that people learn. I mean, that's a huge project to actually get a whole course animated or done like that, but it's certainly worth thinking of. It's
definitely something we've discussed, got it in the back of our minds. Like you said, it's a huge production value, but definitely down the track, I think, like once we've got our core offering courses, we'll be definitely looking to leverage some of those. Unfortunately, our good friend Pleb Music, he does a lot of media stuff. He is so talented in the media space. He's a little bit too talented. He's been snaveled up. I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn here, but anyway, so I won't docs who he's been talking to, but he's been approached. So he's got his own little video content. I'll give him a plug. What's it called, Seb? Citadel Hunter. Yeah.
Citadel Hunter.
Have you seen it?
I saw the promo. I haven't seen it. Is it as good as I thought it was going to? God, I'd forgotten about it.
It's very entertaining. He's very, very good at it. It's well worth. He's just he's a personable guy too, man.
Can you say what that is called again? Citadel Hunter?
The Citadel Hunter? Yeah. It's on YouTube. Under Pleb Music.
We'll plug that below. We'll put that in the notes as well because I meant to. Was it like the promo done in like Croatia or something like that? It was a really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it Croatia? Because Croatia is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's done in Croatia. What you go, Daz?
They're only small. Sorry, Seb. Yeah, they're only small length videos, but he's done one in Croatia and he's done one with Gigi, wherever Gigi was. But he was bombarded with offers. Like it just blew up after that first one that he dropped in Croatia, and he's actually got. I think there's another follow-up one in Croatia, and I think he's planning on releasing a few more long form. But it just completely blew up. Those people were just absolutely stoked about it. So he's got another really cool project in the mess. I don't know if is it public knowledge yet? Are we allowed to talk about it, Seb?
I think I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I know that he said us a.
How about you tell us what it is, and then you can tell us before we release it, and I'll cut it out.
Okay, yeah, we'll find out. So it's a fucking really cool concept. So what he's doing is,
oh my God, hats!
That is an amazing idea.
Oh my God! Oh, it's such a shame nobody can hear it. Back to the show.
At the moment, you're seeing that this whole Luna thing that's blown up. Like at the moment, all of these sites that used to say, okay, deposit your Bitcoin or deposit your dollars and you're going to get this return, they were all investing in this thing called Luna. And so they've now blown up, and there are companies left, right, and center that are they're now ceasing to exist. And I think a lot of people had a lot of their savings in this stuff. Yeah.
Well, I saw actually Armin tweeted tonight that he seemed to think or heard that withdrawing from Bitcoin from exchanges was getting delayed, or there were issues and all that kind of stuff at the
definitely
moment.
Will be.
Yeah. So
I don't know if you guys saw that Coinbase 10Q filing.
Yeah.
Tell people about that.
Basically just highlighting the fact that, while the Bitcoin that they hold in reserves that, is basically, if you're wondering, the Bitcoin that's allocated to anybody's wallet who holds their Bitcoin on an exchange is basically considered their property and would be seized under a foreclosure event where, they had to go into liquidation or insolvency. Basically, that Bitcoin is treated as their property and it would get sold and liquidated to pay out creditors. So just highlights so well that's that one example, not your keys, not your coins. Because if you have Bitcoin on an exchange, and all it takes is for, one of these exchanges to, be thinking, okay, I can go on this Anchor or Wanker bloody staking thing and get 27% APY on anything I stake. They might put a decent portion of their reserves into that to generate their own yield. You don't know what they're doing with these quote unquote reserves. I guess it also just highlights the importance of using if you're going to use these services in the future, you look for the ones that have proof of reserves, like the folk at Leaden. I'm not too familiar with them. I don't use them personally, but I have heard good things about their model as far as if you put your resources or you want to stake your Bitcoin and do loans and all this sort of thing, at least they're being fully transparent with where all those reserves are sitting.
Mm-hmm. I've used them in the past and they're phenomenal. And you know what, like it's interesting. It's kind of like the whole fractional reserve side of things. Like the nice thing about Bitcoin is we know there will only ever be 21 million, but that doesn't mean that there's not more Bitcoin, fiat Bitcoin, and that is being created on these exchanges. And if you ever watch the Netflix TV series, I think it's called Dirty Money, it looks at a bunch of different industries, and one of them is the honey industry. And it looks at like each year there's something like
Plan B.
I don't know. I've forgotten the exact value, but it's like 1.8 million liters of honey is farmed, but there's like 4 million liters of honey sold. So it's just like, where is the rest of this? Like the 3 point or 2 point million liters of honey coming from? And it's because the Chinese a lot of the time are trying to create fake honey because it's worth way more than corn syrup. And so it's the same thing with Bitcoin. Like on these exchanges, you may see that you've got one Bitcoin, but they're over promising and under delivering.
Exactly. I mean, and none of us know. Like it's happening, definitely happening, but none of us can put a number on it, and not even the exchange that's doing it could put a number on it because all they see is what they're doing, right? So, I mean, they reckon I've seen people quoting the number of like 100 to 1 in terms of gold. Like there's 100 to 1 paper contracts in terms of compared to physical gold. I mean, I would be shocked if that was the number with Bitcoin, but it's not impossible. It could be. It's possible.
Can't be that much.
I mean, but
think about these.
But none of us know, right? So the only way you can know is to withdraw it yourself and to know you're holding your Bitcoin. And then when the shit hits the fan, we'll see who's when the tide goes out, we'll see who's swimming naked, right?
100% right. And you got to think about the way the capitals flow into these perpetual futures contracts too. So you've got all this money coming into the space that is affecting price, right? And that's basically a perpetual claim to Bitcoin. It's not Bitcoin. So, and these perpetual futures never settle. They just keep rolling over and rolling over and rolling over. So if you've got all this excess liquidity coming in onto these exchanges, bidding up the price through these perpetual futures contracts, then that's got to be impacting price in a negative way. So the only real way for us to make sure that this fuckery is not going on with Bitcoin is to take your keys, stop trading leverage, stop using perpetual futures, stop using futures contracts, and buy spot, take it off exchange and store it forever.
It is probably the most important thing people could do, in my opinion. So maybe that might be a focus for something on Looking Glass, because
as far as education, or
because people, it's complicated. I know people will listen to this right now thinking it's not complicated, but it is complicated. The first time you do it, I'm sure everybody who did it for the first time found it complicated, right? And if you didn't, you're way more technically competent than I am, because I found it complicated in some ways, and sort of still do in a way, right? So, because you're not doing it, you're not. If you're not interacting with something regular, as I said before, it's difficult, right? So to have some step-by-step guide to this is how you do this. I mean, I see somebody recently, again, the guys at Hardblock, they're about to do a step-by-step how to take out and how to put your Bitcoin into a self-managed super fund in Australia, right? Because many of us might be sitting here going, "Oh, I really want to do that," but it's almost like you're daunted by the whole process, so you're not prepared to start the first step of the process. And when somebody breaks it down into sort of manageable chunks, then it's totally doable.
When on this course that we're working on at the moment, which is kind of the Bitcoin fundamentals course, in that we're definitely going to go deep into talking about the different forms of custody, because I think there's also naturally, even when I look at my process about how I got into Bitcoin, I didn't start with my first Bitcoin putting it on a ledger. You know what I mean? It took time. I initially bought Bitcoin through a centralized exchange, and realistically, we all have to buy it through a centralized exchange unless we have miners. But I started with the centralized exchange, and then I went to kind of some of these more lend things where they're actually proving your reserves. And then I ended up going from that into, then I went to a wallet on my laptop, and then I went to a ledger. And so it's kind of this step of kind of slowly understanding the importance of self-custody.
Yeah. And it's a process. And you have to become comfortable with one step before you're able to move on to the next one. And that's all well and good, but if we have a problem where shit hits the fans and you bought some Bitcoin, but it's sitting on Coinbase or it's sitting on God knows what exchange, and that's the one that's done, that's not going to be a comfortable experience for people who thought they've done the right thing.
Well, I think it goes back to when we're talking about this whole kind of fractionalized reserve system. When you look at WikiLeaks a little while back released a bunch of documents that showed that the US government knew when they released gold futures that it would suppress the price of gold and make it volatile so that the average Joe would not be investing in gold. They openly admitted this in some of the state documents. Wow. And so it goes back to the Bitcoin thing where it's just I've been a subscriber to Willy Woo's kind of on-chain analysis for a long time. And in one of his emails, he's just at the moment, futures markets are controlling 90% of the price of Bitcoin. So spot is only controlling 10% of the price of Bitcoin. And the SEC is declining to allow these spot ETFs. And so they've already shown in the past that they use gold futures markets to be able to manipulate the price of gold. And I feel as if they're probably doing something very similar when it comes to Bitcoin. But the reality is that what you're doing is you're holding a ball underwater. And the more suppression you do, the deeper you're holding that ball. And eventually that ball is going to slip and it's going to rocket. And at that point, when it rockets up in price, because the demand, it can't hold back the demand anymore, at that point, this fractionalized reserve system is going to collapse. Because there's just, if there's 100 to 1,
everywhere.
Yeah, if there's 100 to 1 Bitcoin, just as you're saying, then this system cannot hold that. If price goes up 10x or whatever over a period of a year or so.
Yeah, if you're the chair of the SEC and you see you've got all this feed-in data between sentiment and people are starting to wake up, like more and more normies understand what fiat currency is now. It's no longer a fringe term. Mm-hmm. If you've got access to all this data and you start to see that slowly but surely there's a real paradigm shift happening with people's sentiment towards the dollar, right? You have to do everything that you can. Like if Bitcoin was allowed, I firmly believe if Bitcoin were allowed to run its course, we would be over 200,000 US right now. And
I think
if that would have happened,
if everybody stopped trading between now and 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, or lunchtime for Seb, we could be $1 million by lunchtime. We could be $1 million by lunchtime if people just remove their Bitcoin from exchange and stop trading.
So I think
right?
It just incentivizes them to manipulate the markets with these, because if it did, more and more people would go, hang on, what's that floating orange ball over there, running away from me now? I need in, and it'd be a total systemic collapse of fiat currency because people would want to pile into Bitcoin, and it would just accelerate what's inevitable anyway, right? So we're lucky we're on the cusp here. We know what this thing is, and we're all, you go through your Twitter feed today after this market spew, and the Bitcoiners have doing backflips. We're rejoicing. We're like, I never thought we'd get this opportunity again, man. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, my boss couldn't even talk to me today because I'm like got 2 phones going, and I'm like hitting smash buys, putting market orders in, and I'm buying freaking MicroStrategy shares, and I'm just going fucking mental. And we're rejoicing, and everyone else and then by the same time, I get all these text messages from friends going, "Oh,
are you okay?
$1,000 I put in is now only there's $80 down," and I was just like, "Oh my god, really?"
Yeah.
Long-term view, people, come on, zoom out. And this is what I often tell people. I say, if you're going to buy Bitcoin, every dollar that you put in, you only use what you absolutely promise yourself you're not going to touch for 4 years. If you knew,
Yeah.
you just, we know I'm buying it. I'm never touching it. That's my plan. But every dollar you put in, don't touch for 4 years. Zoom out, chill the fuck out, and just come back in 4 years and buy me a beer.
That's perfect.
Next time you're talking to Greg, can you just tell him that my family's not eating because after watching him on the thing, I'm like, I found $200 from somewhere. And I just went and bought. So tell him my family's hungry because of his performance.
Right.
Genuinely, that's what happened.
Do you guys want to just give the Looking Glass another shout out? How do they actually get to the site?
Go, Seb.
If you check us out, so we have a Twitter account at Looking Glass EDU kind of standing for education. And then we also have the website, which is lookingglasseducation.com. And I would highly recommend, we have kind of 2 sections at the moment to the website. We have the deep dives, which kind of each article written by a bunch of different people kind of goes into different subtopics. And then we've got kind of the course side of things, and we only have 1 course at the moment, but we highly, highly recommend if you're new to this or looking to kind of understand kind of this more macro picture about what's going on in the world, check out our course. And it's phenomenal. It's the foundations course, debt, inflation, and the bigger picture.
Fantastic. All right, Daz, Seb.
Couldn't recommend it highly enough for people. And also, you guys can't see it, but obviously the content, you're very strongly involved with the content that was there. It's great, guys. Well done. Loved it. So everybody go give it a shout. Either share it, do it, whatever. It's and all the notes will be below.
All right, thanks, legends.
Awesome. Yeah. No,
Daz,
and we
I'll see you in a month and a bit.
Happy days. We're gonna record a pod in my garage. Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be secret, but that's fine. I didn't tell Hats.
Here we go.
Yeah, we're kicking him out.
I reckon that's Doxjar worthy.
That's Doxjar worthy.
Yes, 100 sats.
All right, see ya.
See you, boys.
Hey guys, if you've made it this far, thanks so much for listening. The plan with the pod is to do sort of guests one week and myself and Brendo the other week, so hopefully that's working for you. If you don't like one of them, just listen to the one you do like. If you want a little bit more information from us, you can find it at bitcoin-first.com/learn.